tell me about one person who's been really influential to you personally in your founder journey, apart from maybe your co-founder.
Interesting one. Wow, I really need to think about this one.
If your mom was here in this room right now, what would you tell her? What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Build Our Africa series, season 2. I guess that's what you have to say, because we had season 1, then it just kind of fell off. But we're back. Anyway, today I'm with Tesh Mbaabu, the founder and CEO of marketForce. marketForce empowers B2B commerce across Africa. They work across 5 markets, empowering over 200,000 merchants. Recently announced a $40 million fundraise. Today we have an exclusive with the founder and CEO, Tesh. Unfortunately, Tesh is from Kenya. He's not from Tanzania, but that's okay. We'll let this one slide today. I'm not Shida. We're all working towards building Africa. Anyway, we're super excited to join. Thank you all so much for tuning in to this episode. We're going to go jump in and get started. Welcome, Tesh.
Asante. Good
so, should we talk in Swahili today? Au Kiingereza? Au...
We can mix. You know how we do it in Kenya. Sheng kidogo.
Man, well, take me back. You started your first company at the age of 18.
Yeah.
What were you thinking?
Yeah, so...
Like tech company too, right?
Yeah, tech focused.
Okay.
So it's interesting story.
Yeah.
I went home for midterm.
Okay.
I was in high school. I tell this story a lot.
Yeah.
Form 2, my elder cousin was like, have you interacted with Facebook? Do you know about this platform? Mm-hmm. I'm like, yo, what does Facebook do? So she signs me up on Gmail so that I can get a Facebook account. And I fall in love with tech. I'm like, who's building this stuff? I want to build stuff like this. Mm-hmm. So I changed my career path. Mm-hmm. Like I was always a creative designer. I wanted to be an architect. Mm-hmm. But then from then I was like, who builds this stuff? So that's how I decided to go into computing, studied software engineering. Mm-hmm. And got into the startup world.
Yeah, so wait. This is before going to uni, but let's take a step back, right? Like, you grew up in Nairobi?
I grew up on the outskirts of Nairobi.
Okay.
So 25 kilometers out, a place called Ngong. Mm. So it's on the foot of Ngong Hills. Those who've been to Nairobi.
Yeah, that's where a lot of people go to run, right?
Guys run there a lot and hike as well. Yeah, so it's a middle income sort of community or area. My parents worked in Nairobi, the city. So it works out.
Mm-hmm. And so talk to me about that journey. So like you grew up in Nairobi. Today you run marketForce, right? You co-founded marketForce, an organization that powers B2B commerce for over 200,000 merchants across 5 African countries. It's been quite a journey. I'm sure it didn't happen overnight. Now I want to talk about where that drive came from, where that push to be able to build this company came from. Yeah. And so from high school, like let's go back there. So from high school, was anybody in your family a tech founder? Was it like your dad or mom or like family like connected? Do you have siblings? Or were they part of tech as well? Or where did that come from, apart from your passion from like learning about Facebook from your friend?
Yeah, I guess it's largely because I'm very curious as a person. I'm the kind of person who, I don't talk much, but everywhere I go, I'm very observant and trying to figure out, what is this? Like, how did this end up here? So, and I'm also quite adventurous. So naturally, adrenaline junkie, So I think the startup thing became, is very connected to that side of me.
Yeah.
My parents, so my dad has been a lecturer for a long time. He's retired now.
Yeah.
So he's a professor at the university. My mom was a lawyer, so she was an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
So I remember when I was a kid, I'd take her to the office, because I was a really small boy.
Yeah.
And I'd enjoy going with her because lunch was lit. So I'd be
it's all about that food, man.
I would be thinking about food. So, so that was fun, but I got to see what I thought was freedom that comes with entrepreneurship. Like she'd walk in, then she was just a boss, she was working with this team and I could see how she's dealing with clients. I think like I wasn't pushed into entrepreneurship or anything, but I think that's why I picked it up from. That you can actually be your own boss, kind of thing. Then over time I realized like you're never your own boss.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the background into how I ended up in venture. But more importantly, I'm always like about creating impact. So one thing like I'm really passionate about is creating jobs, especially for the youth. So problem solving, and you know how high unemployment is in the continent.
Yeah.
And that also explains why I'm building like marketForce,
Yeah.
because it's a space that can create a lot of prosperity for many people. So the merchants we deal with, enabling them to have better incomes, but also how we've built the business is through gig workers who onboard the merchants. So we have like 1,000 people we've trained. They use our app, go onboard merchants, train merchants, etc. And that gives me the most joy.
Yeah. I've seen that on field. I'll come to marketForce shortly in a bit. Before marketForce, you started a company that got acquired, Cloud9, I believe.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about that journey to even like starting this business to it getting acquired and then you moving into marketForce?
Yeah. So I've tried a couple of things.
Yeah.
So some L's, as you call it, and some successful. So Cloud9 was one of those. So my journey is I clear high school at 18.
Okay.
I started a web and graphic design business. At this point, I know I want to go into tech. So what's the fastest thing I can learn and start doing? So graphic and web design. So
Guys,
I started doing gigs.
Tesh is offering free graphic design tutorials. If anybody wants them to our graphics, hit him up, send him a DM, He'll, like make your poster, and make it for you. Yeah, for those Nairobi billboards, I've seen them. I bet you guys are doing some of those too.
I did a lot of that work.
Yeah.
Like I think that financed my partying throughout campus.
That's hilarious because I used to do graphic design too.
I guess that's where all tech bros start.
Exactly. It's like Photoshop, learn how to do it. And like YouTube, there's probably cracked Photoshop too. And like you're using some bootleg laptop where Windows is not even working.
Okay, exactly.
You've learned how to crack it too.
And cracking Adobe and all that stuff. Yeah, it's hilarious. So I started this graphic design company, and then as every Kenyan, I call it Tesh.
It was called Tesh. He called his first company Tesh Tech. Okay.
Ambition, bro. Priceless.
You gotta name your company after yourself, man. That's the only way to make it happen.
So that was pretty cool. Tesh Tech, did a couple of gigs through campus. I met my current co-founder. So Mesongo, I was like, I'm getting all these gigs. I'm at that point I realized I'm not really into the coding element. I really like the intersection between how the technology works and how the product or the business actually works. So I started moving towards running the business and client-facing kind of stuff, operational kind of stuff. My co-founder comes in and he starts handling all the technical stuff. Then we co-found the second company, which is Mesozi. That's a software company. We've got into campus. Now we understand how to actually build software and product. So we started consulting for that. And then
this is while you're a student in university.
Yeah.
You're like starting this company with like your co-founder who you met on campus, and you're like, guys, like let's make this deal. That's what was happening, right?
That's what was happening. And at this point,
at the University of Nairobi here.
At the University of Nairobi. And I was studying computer science. I'm consuming so much information around like startups in Silicon Valley. Because remember, I started with the Facebook story. I'm like, who built this? So I started reading more about startups and how to build startups, etc. So now I'm thinking about my environment and what problem can I solve? Because I've started understanding that, okay, to build a successful company, you need to find a problem, so basics of starting a tech startup. So we co-found our first startup within Mesozi. So our idea then is this group of companies that solves African problems. So the first problem was, remember when web design at that point?
Yeah.
So we used to tender
for different projects.
Exactly. So, and it was all manual, like so much paperwork. So like, why do you have to do all this paperwork?
Right.
So we think about starting a tender ring automation platform, failed terribly. And then we go on vacation to take our L's. So we go to Diani, the best beaches,
Yeah, listen, we're going to have to cut this show right now. Diani that is false information, but we'll let that slide for today. Tanzania still has the best beaches in the world, but okay.
Yeah, so, the idea now is, okay, how do we get this idea of listing the best African destinations through a marketplace? Avail them to, this is before like Airbnb experiences, avail them to leisure seekers locally, internationally, expose the businesses. So we set up this marketplace, and then that's Cloud9. That's it's long story short.
Yeah.
That's a company that was acquired.
Nice.
We were operational at that point in 4 markets, but this was a virtual business, just listing experiences online.
So, a popular saying in East Africa that I find many people around Nairobi or Dar es Salaam, where I grew up, talking about is people saying, "Oh, Tesh, I want to sell you my idea." This whole premise about how much ideas matter.
Yeah.
And this idea of like selling people ideas. Do you believe in selling ideas? What does that actually mean? Or like, what's your philosophy when somebody tells you, they said, "Okay, I want to sell you my idea"? What do you usually respond to them?
Yeah, so, I mean, I think ideas are worth almost zero. But to be polite, I think, okay, ideas are worth like, say, 1%. 99% is getting that idea to life. So every great business, I'm sure Nala started with this idea of enabling people send money back home, etc. Right? But the minute you think about an idea, then you need to move really quickly to the reality around making that idea come to life. And that involves many things, and that's the hard stuff about building a startup. I really get pissed when people come to me and they want me to sign NDAs for the ideas. I'm like, dude, I have this best idea. I can't tell you right now,
You're gonna steal my idea.
Yeah, I hate that stuff.
I get that all the time, man, and it's a tough one because I think my philosophy behind it is I think many people's parents maybe heard of somebody, uncle, cousin, who made money from a tender. Where like a government posted a tender in the newspaper, somebody wrote an idea with their nice project plans, and then some uncle or auntie or somebody they knew of or family friend made money because they got that tender based on their ideas they wrote down. And so it breeds this generation of young people who believe ideas are significantly more valuable. And I think that's a challenge we're finding, especially in the region, because I see that in Tanzania. I guess that's also in Kenya as well.
Yeah, same story. Yeah.
So now let's talk about all these hustles you're doing while you were in university.
Yeah, initially, yeah.
And I'm sure did you get any rejections from any of the contracts you're trying to get or win?
Oh man, I've taken L's. I swear, even thinking about fundraising journey, which is way later.
Yeah.
I think I've talked to maybe 300 investors, and only 10% of them, which is it's not a small number, have said yes, but it's 90%. That's like 250 plus no's, right?
Yeah.
And it hurts, but it gets to a point you learn that it's part of the job. Like being a startup founder is about taking those L's. They say there's this thing we say all the time. You have 4 kinds of days as a startup founder. You have really terrible days. You have the best days where you've closed a deal, you've closed an investor, good things happened. You hired a rock star, and then there are 2 normal days. So dealing with the 25% of the days, which is almost 1.5 days a week, almost, is a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of people can't deal with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about getting to marketForce, right? So how did you come up with even thinking about solving this problem with merchants, commerce and trade with merchants across the continent? how did you realize the problem and how big it was, and then what made you feel? Because what I'm trying to understand is, we talk about, ideas are a dime a dozen. Everybody has ideas, right?
Yeah.
But gaining conviction as a founder to know, like this is the one I really want to focus in.
Yeah.
Like, how did you build that conviction?
Yeah, interesting story. And this was out of experience building other stuff. So the lesson I learned from the tender automation system is do not go ahead and build a product before you talk to customers. So I see a lot of memes around first time versus second time founders. So first time founder will have a great idea and then build the product
and then go chase
and
customers.
then go chase customers. Second time founder will not build a product. They'll think about an idea and start talking to customers and then build a product based on what customers are saying. So with marketForce, it was actually customer driven. The product in the first product iteration was, we're talking to FMCG companies, fast moving consumer goods. So basically anything you grab off a shelf or your neighborhood shop, we call them dukas in East Africa. All these guys have to figure out a way of their product getting to the shop. So it's a whole supply chain distribution thing. And what a lot of customers, initial customers for SaaS came as software as a service for our software was, we need to understand who are our customers on the ground and how can we drive more sales. Because there are these order bookers who go, there's that guy you see in the morning going and collecting the order for bread, and then they supply the bread to the shop. So we built software to digitize that process. And there's no way we would know about this problem if we weren't in the game with the software consulting business and being known as the guys who build software. So we're already doing something, and customers approached us and told us, this is what I need to be built. And then they started adopting that. And while we're building them that solution and visiting them in the market, then you meet all these merchants who are still facing frustration from lack of timely access to goods. So they run out of stock, they have to close the shop, go out to the nearest market to buy stuff that costs them a lot of time, costs them logistics costs. So that's when we learned about this whole opportunity, the fact that 90% of stuff bought at dukas, of stuff in Africa is bought through dukas. Most Africans can't afford or access the mega malls that you find like here in London and, So that's how marketForce came to be. And then we continue now talking to these merchants and understanding what are the more pain points we can solve. They don't have access to credit. Okay, so now I'm delivering goods to you every day. I can bank you. I can start lending you cash. I can enable you earn extra incomes by acting as agents for financial services. So now we're building this whole suite of services, products for this neighborhood merchant to grow their business.
So tell me about version 0. Like, okay, you want to build this, like, did you build a whole website first? Did you have like what was version 0, like the scrappiest version of the product?
So
how do you run tests to see like how this works?
Yeah, so super interesting, because I think one thing I remember very well is like out of our first like 500 customers, I personally onboarding 20% of them. Like I would go out to the market, visit shops, take orders. At that point, we're even taking orders on like Google Forms, Google Sheets. Yeah. So we didn't build any product. It's just talk to the customer. What do you need? You need me to bring flour? You need me to what do you need? I'll bring it. We used to pack stuff, Mesongo and I, in vehicles and drive around with a van, making the deliveries ourselves. And that was version 0 of marketForce. So getting your hands dirty, I'm sure you have similar story with onboarding customers, the first customers. 100%. I've seen your list, your phone book with Nala customers.
Yeah.
That's how to truly build. Because at the end of the day, you're solving a problem for somebody. That's a person you should be spending the most time with. And this is a problem a lot of fast founders, this is an issue. A lot of first-time founders, they spend most of their time behind their laptop, right? Trying to build, you should be talking to your customer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how one thing I love that you guys do, I believe every month everybody on your team, right, goes to visit customers. Is that what's that called? marketForce?
Yeah, so we call them customer weeks. So
Yeah.
every quarter,
Okay.
we spend time in the field. Everybody has to get a time to go out and talk to customers. So, and we're really strict about that because, like, at the end of the day, again, like, you're building for the customer, whether in your engineering, ops, HR,
Yeah.
like, everybody needs to understand the customer pain point to be able to build the right solution for them.
How did you grow that to over 200,000 merchants now?
So, so it's a model I'm talking about. So the gig worker model.
Yeah.
So basically, what we've done is come up with this way of training agents within different communities. So these are youth who don't have jobs. We built a specific app for them. It's an agent app. They download it, and their work is to go on board shops. Based on the shops they onboard and the orders those shops are making, they earn a commission.
Nice.
So we turn guys who didn't have jobs to start earning $300, $500, and some grow to $1,000+ a month from generating orders in their communities. So that agent network has grown to over 500 active agents. We've probably trained 1,500 plus, but over 500 active agents go out to the field every day and talk to our customers. That's how we've grown to that number of merchants across 5 markets.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about. I want to talk about your personal journey while building this company, while trying to balance everything out.
Yeah.
You become a father. You have a kid at home. 2, right? Now 1. 1.
One coming.
1 coming. Okay. That's an exclusive.
1.5.
1.5. Okay, that's an exclusive. You had to hear first.
It's an exclusive.
No, but I want to learn about that because
Yeah.
people from the outside see like, okay, marketForce raised this amount of money. I think you recently announced a $40 million round. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What's the total amount that you guys have raised to date?
So 42.5 million.
Okay, so $42.5 million as a founder in Nairobi, Kenya, is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I personally am very proud of what you guys have done with even the traction you guys have gotten. It's not about raising the money; it's also about building a proper business, right? And it's very inspiring.
Thank you.
And you talk about this whole journey. You mentioned you went to over 300 investors. Less than 10% of them have even invested in the business. I want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
As a founder, okay, you've built some traction. You start to go out and raise money. You're also one of the first East African companies in Y Combinator program. And I want to know, what was that journey like, beginning to fundraise and starting to look for your first investors?
Yeah, so honestly, like, super steep learning curve.
Yeah.
So this is the first time I was going out and to raise funding. I learned so much about finance. And that's the thing about, being a startup CEO, right? Like, you're the HR guy, you're the ops guy,
head of finance,
head of
CFO,
finance, everything, chief everything officer, basically, right? So learning curve was very steep. Like, you go into meetings, it's like every meeting you're going to is a lesson. So you're hearing about LTV and CAC and all these abbreviations.
You're like, what's that?
What's going on?
Yeah, I remember that feeling. I was like, I need to go home and Google this one.
Yeah, and I'm still learning so much to date, right? But that's part of the journey. The reason this is exciting, it's a big challenge. I learned a lot. YC experience was very, very good because I got to interact with advanced founders, who challenge you. The pace of the program was also really intense and makes you think about very creative ways of growing customer, growing revenue
in a short period of time.
So very intense. I think generally the startup journey has been very intense for me. The fundraising journey was super tough. Being a Black founder, you mentioned this, coming out of a background where you're not the ideal founder to back, in quotes. So that plays on your mind as well, right? On your psyche,
confidence
like
too, as
on
you're
your
going into these meetings.
exactly. So you have to go through all these things. So it's very lonely, as they said, and I mean you have to punch through all those walls.
Yeah.
And it's something I still go through today. So on a past, like you're always thinking, am I good enough? Running a team of 300 plus people, like am I the right person for the job?
Yeah.
But every day you wake up and you realize that people have chosen to work with you. People have chosen to invest in you for a reason. There's something they saw, and so over time you just need to build up that confidence and do it right.
Yeah. All right. So raising money is hard.
Yeah.
Tell me about the specific moment you got that first check come in. How much was the first check? And like, tell me about that. Just tell me about that story.
Yeah. So I think it was very interesting experience because it was progressive. So I remember initially when we first got the first customer and we wanted to scale up. So the $5,000 a month in revenue you're getting is not enough to pay the bills. So you need to raise money. And we had to make a leap of faith and hire guys without having like clear visibility of when the pay is going to come. Wow. And every setup has to make that decision when, okay, it's the right time to hire. So at that point, I started getting incremental checks from family and friends. So like $1,000 checks, $5,000 checks. I'm like, okay, guys are believing in this thing, because you're talking to your friends about the problems you have. I can't meet payroll, and they're like, okay, how much do you need? Man, I just need $3,000. And they're like, okay, can I invest? And they come through. So this happened with a friend, a cousin. My wife even invested. She was my fiance then. Then
bold investment from her, huh?
Yeah, she's like this
babe, I believe in you. I believe in us.
Exactly.
I'm securing my future right here.
Yeah, so that was pretty special. And then now we got the first institutional check. It was $50,000. Man, that was massive. It was like a stranger put money in me. No, that feeling was priceless, honestly. Like I built something and sold it to a stranger. And they put in. And Kenyans, East Africans, it's generally Africans, I guess, they'll invest in everything but tech, real estate, all
if
that
it's a
stuff.
physical building and I can see it, I'm in. Yeah.
And this guy had never made any tech investment. We're the first tech investment, first tech company. And there were two friends and they put in $50,000.
Wow.
Yeah, so that was a big moment for us. The due diligence for them was that they took 3 months trying to figure out, can we trust this boy? Can we trust this boy? Yeah, I think that's why because we had 5 dinners. These guys were trying to gauge, if I give this guy $50,000, where he's going to take the money, But eventually they put in the money, and that was this. After that, YC investing was massive also. We didn't sleep.
You didn't sleep? After you got that call, what happened?
I remember, we hung up the phone. So my co-founder and I were on the call. And we were, speechless when he told us that, yo, you guys are in. When we hung up the call, those guys are all over the place. We turned that house upside down, throwing pillows and everything. It was solid.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What an incredible moment. I mean,
I'm curious how it is for you.
For context, for those who don't know, Y Combinator is one of the hardest, actually the hardest accelerator program in the world to get into. It's got a 1.7% acceptance rate globally. And getting accepted, and being an African founder getting accepted is even harder, because they usually take 5 companies out of over 20,000 people applying from Africa.
In our batch, we were the only African.
Wow.
The 2 African companies were the only company in sub-Saharan Africa.
Wow.
So it was massive.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. I mean, in our batch, we're the only company in East Africa. The rest was 6 Nigerian companies and then Nala.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I remember that day. I didn't sleep either. Got that call. I was like, wait, where in YC?
Yeah.
Like, where
Am I
YC?
dreaming?
Yeah. He's like, because I think for me it was more. I applied to Y Combinator 6 times as a founder. We got rejected 5 times. We got in once.
Damn.
And so at that moment,
Never give up.
People saw like, okay, Nala, like East African company going to YC, whatever, from Tanzania. Everybody expected a company from Kenya.
Yeah.
And like this random company from Tanzania is going. And we'll park that on the side. But it was more like, it was like this release. You're like, it's our first institutional check that came in, was YC. And I remember like, even when we got there, because we were a Tanzanian company, they couldn't even wire the money yet. Like you have to flip the entity.
Yeah. And
then we had to wait. So like, okay, you're in YC and then you don't even have the money they offered you because you can't use it. And then I'm out here boring, like calling people to make payroll. Like I had a friend called Jack Langworthy. I called him. Actually, you met Jack at my birthday. And I was like, Jack, I need to borrow money. He's like, how much? It was like $500. He like wired it instantly. I was like, make payroll, like whatever, like let's move. And like telling guys, like don't worry, we'll figure this out. Pay you back later. But no, that was it for us. Now
that's interesting. I think I'd like to say something about that. And I feel like the startup journey is super humbling because it makes you do stuff like that. Like you get to points where you need to call a friend. It's like lifeline. You have like so many. Yeah, you have so many lifelines, right? Like there are those moments where you just need to seek help, and you have to get comfortable with it. You have to get comfortable with not knowing, with asking. Benji, like, I'm having this situation. Can you advise me what to do?
Yeah.
But that's something interesting. And what you're talking about, the resilience as well. Like 6 times, dude. 6 times. Many guys would be like, third time, I'm a failure. These guys don't care. But you keep applying. Like, that's crazy.
Bro.
Because give perspective, that's like, because they accept 2 batches a year. That's 3 years.
Yeah. My first application was 2016.
Exactly. 3 years of chasing this thing. We got accepted the second time. And I remember the first time we got rejected, like we got into the interview.
Yeah, same.
It was super late because in East Africa, we did the interview after midnight. I think it was like 12:30 a.m. I don't do well at that point in the night.
Yeah.
So I was low. This is a big moment, but I just couldn't bring out my real self. So after the interview, I was beating myself up. I'm like, I didn't answer the questions well, etc. But still applied again, right? So that resilience is insane.
Yeah. So talk to me about, about resilience, right? Tied with that is tough moments as a founder.
Yeah.
What was one of the hardest moments you personally faced as a founder?
Oh, man. I feel like I keep getting to a new level of adversity as I build. People look at your company and like, you've raised a lot of money. They see what the most glorious parts of being a founder. Out here talking to Benji, we look like we're having a good time, but I'm sure at the back of your mind, there's so much stuff you're dealing with, right? About growth, about, team, etc. So toughest moments, the bar has kept rising. I remember in 2019, like a very small team, I think we're 3 or 4. And at that point, not being able to meet payroll, you'd feel like a failure. It's like I'm letting my team down, etc. Then you get into 2020, it's a pandemic. I think we had grown to like 25 people. And we had to cut salaries by between 30 and 70%. So as a founder, I took like a 70% cut. That was really hard because at that point, you're employing parents. And then you're leading in a time of a lot of anxiety, pressure. Guys don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on, but you need to lead at that point, right? So very tough moment to lead. Then you come out of that 2021 is, great year in the founder ecosystem and everything. Then you get into 2022, there's a war. The war really affected our business because of the price of, commodities, etc. And then, the market went down. So very tough year, because we're suddenly moving from a year where you're expected to be growing like crazy to let's build for profitability. So every time you think you're out of the woods, sort of, something just happens and you're back at it. So it's, you get used to it. It's almost like getting used to pain and learning to enjoy the moment, build for the moment, because you need to accept that that's founder journey, like the 4 days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the flip side of that, like, what's been, you've had so many accomplishments with marketForce and even your previous companies.
Yeah.
But what's been one of your proudest moments as Tesh, as a founder?
So I've had a lot of proud moments, but every time I think the biggest proud moments are associated with my team. And that's mostly because you realize that it's impossible to build without a very solid team. And then having this group of very smart people working with you and walking with you through the journey. So I was just looking at, our headcount last quarter, grew from 150 people the year before to 350 people full time. And seeing amount of passion and dedication makes me super proud. I think I feel like I'm living what I set out to live, which was create a company that people are proud to be part of, and creating those jobs special.
Who really inspires you to do the work that you do? Who really, apart from the problems you're trying to solve, tell me about one person who's been really influential to you personally in your founder journey, apart from maybe your co-founder.
Interesting one. Wow, I really need to think about this one. I can't blank.
Give me two.
Who's inspired me?
Or who's been like a backbone for you, where it's like they've pushed you no matter what's happened. Like, you know what? Like, this is fine. We'll figure this out.
To be honest, I think it's my co-founder. Yeah, because I think he's the one who's understood that. Like, he's been in the trenches with me, and there are days I'm having the bad day, the days that, as co-founders, one of you feels like quitting, and the other one is like, it's gonna be alright, and the next day it's vice versa, right? So I think I'd definitely give it to my co-founder. It's hard enough as it is, but I think it would be like twice as hard if it wasn't for him. I don't know how you manage as a solo founder, to be honest. At least initially.
Yeah.
You got co-founders later, right?
Yeah. Oh, I have CEO and CTO. Yeah.
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 Yeah. But your founders, solo founders, must be crazy.
It's hard. It's hard. If your mom was here in this room right now, what would you tell her?
Yeah. Mom, you inspire me a lot. You're a fantastic leader. And my mom has she believed in me since day one, and I came to realize way later. And
She believed in you pre-seed.
Pre-seed, like day one. And I can still tell today when she tells me things like, I don't know what you're going through, but you got this. It always touches me, and she's been supportive in every situation, in the lowest times, in the highest points, and she reminds me to give thanks when things are really good. When things are terrible, she still reminds me to have gratitude. Right, so I think she's been the most grounding person for me throughout my journey. Because every time, you get accolades or you raise funds, she's the one person that is happy for you, but reminds you that you're not special. Like, it's you. There's grace.
Yeah.
Depends on what you believe in, but like for her, it's remember this is God's grace. That's gotten you here, and I think that's an interesting thing about luck. I don't know what you believe. I'm curious, but what do you think when I tell you, Benji, you're not special?
Yeah, I think I'm a product of grace that's still in the process.
Yeah.
So I think I've been blessed and fortunate with the opportunities that have been given to me, and feel very privileged by them. And it's just people, like you mentioned, like believing you, giving these opportunities that you felt like you've never deserved. Like, you're this random kid from Nairobi, I'm this random kid from Dar es Salaam. We're sitting in London today, have organizations that have grown to over 100 people and, service problems across multiple regions in the world. And like, did I think I'd be doing this 10 years ago? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's a hard one.
Yeah.
So speaking of 10 years ago, you're 28 now, 29?
29.
29 now. So let's go back to the 18-year-old Tesh. If you met that 18-year-old Tesh today and that 18-year-old Tesh was sitting right here where I am in the room, what 2 to 3 things would you tell that Tesh? Pieces of advice.
Yeah. One is work hard. I know it sounds very cliche, but in your 20s especially, like, people who, and work hard in this case means like go the extra mile, like do stuff your peers are not doing. While my peers I love playing PlayStation, for example, but I'd spend 6 hours playing FIFA and I'd spend 3 hours, 4 hours learning how to do my graphics, do my web, and that created an edge. There's this thing about every day or even every month improving yourself by 1%, that continuous improvement. So always outwork the person next to you. I think it's one major one. And the second one is be careful who you surround yourself with, because the reason I spend time with you, Benji, is because you inspire me. The reason I spend time with other entrepreneurs, especially guys who work harder than me, or are doing better in areas of my life where I'd like to improve. So it doesn't mean just like only work. There's a good balance, right? There are guys who you realize this guy is doing very well with, family. I met a founder who has 4 kids, and I was asking him, dude, how do you manage this? I have a family, and that's inspirational. So that's why that's a big thing for me as well, because you end up emulating the people you spend most time with. And if I'm meeting an 18-year-old Benji, an 18-year-old Tesh, who's out working, who's thinking outside the box, you went to Harvard, you're doing all these things, you're a role model. So spending time with people like you raises my bar. And 10 years later, like, it makes such a massive difference who you end up becoming.
No, thank you. That's very kind of you. I want to understand. So, your wife, you mentioned a few times. There's a lot of sacrifices you have to make as a founder. You have people you employ in your company. You have over 300 people now at the organization. A lot of them have families, have kids. You have a family, you have a kid. There's so many sacrifices you have to make as a founder. You're away from home. You operate in 5 countries around Africa, and you don't get to see them as much as you probably want to. Your mom probably misses you often. Your cousins, your relatives, you probably miss birthdays, weddings, funerals, and things like that. How do you balance that?
Bro, I don't know if there's such thing as balance.
How do you cope through that all?
Yeah, I think I'm driven by the mission, and this is one thing I really appreciate my wife, my mom, my family for. I'm very close to my cousins, my brothers. They realize that I've sort of been given this opportunity to lead, to build our Africa, right? Yeah, so I really appreciate that they understand. And anytime I'm apologetic, because most times I feel bad, I feel terrible, I'm not there, for my son, like things are happening at school, for example, and my wife will go, I can't make it because I have this important meeting, and she's like, don't worry, and she's telling me you're building our Africa in quotes, and that's the opportunity you have. It's a rare opportunity. So do what you can do. And I appreciate them for giving me the space to do this. So that's how I cope. Just the reassurance from them that we appreciate that you're trying your best. But just go forth and do this thing that you're really good at. And, keep inspiring more people, keep building,
Cool. I have a final question. I'm going to go into wrapping up over here.
Yeah.
Tesh, as we wrap up, what matters to you most in life and why?
It's a powerful question. So what matters for me most is living my full potential. So every day I wake up and I feel an ounce of laziness. Like the first thing that comes to my mind is like, why are you wasting this opportunity? So what matters for me the most is like creating as much impact as I can with what I have, whether little or a lot, like just spending my time productively, efficiently. And that's why when I get opportunities like this to meet Benji, have this chat, I know this chat will inspire somebody. I could be home chilling right now, Netflix. It's been a long day. I've had like 7 meetings today, but I'm like, this is one opportunity to share my story because it could touch 3 lives. And maybe that means 3 people who will create 1,000 jobs for Africans, right? So, yeah, prosperity for Africa.
Nice. I love it. Before I wrap up, I have a quick fire round. Yeah. So, important question. I mean, unfortunately, Tesh does not support Manchester United. He supports Arsenal, which is a big problem. And we have an agreement, right? What's the gentleman's agreement that we have?
That's a good one. Yeah, so if Arsenal win the league.
This year,
2023, we're winning the league. When we win the league.
Yes. If they win the league.
So Benji is buying me a ticket. And he's wearing an Arsenal shirt, and we're gonna watch the game. We're gonna watch an Arsenal game together at the Emirates. So I can't wait.
You can't wait to
sponsor ticket
to the Emirates Stadium.
To the Emirates.
Have you been to the Emirates yet?
I have.
I've not seen a game there yet, so that'll be my first one at the Emirates.
Yes, I guess first game of next season.
Yeah, exactly.
And if Manchester United win this league, I'm going to wear a Manchester United shirt for a full week of Benji's choice.
Of my choice. You guys already know what week that's going to be. Fundraising week, demo day week, Customer Service Week, all of those. I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready. Tell the marketForce team you're going to be wearing a Man United jersey to meet the customers.
I'll be creative. I'll wear my new jersey as a vest.
Yeah.
No, not happening. I honor my bets.
Yeah, okay. Quick. I know you love sports, so quick round. LeBron James or Michael Jordan?
Michael Jordan.
Ronaldo or Messi?
Ronaldo.
Okay, good answer. He answered this.
I just went together on that one.
Yeah, I was waiting to remember this guy.
It's Diani versus
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so Diani versus Zanzibar.
Diani.
Yo, don't make the mistake. This guy's made a mistake. We have to re-record that piece. I know you love your cars, so Subaru or BMW?
BMW.
Oh man, he loves the BMW.
I love the BMW.
What about for the weekend for fun? Going to watch a rally or going to watch Arsenal play?
Arsenal play any day. I love football.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you do. We've watched enough games with Tesh together. Probably you can find it on our Instagrams together. Yeah. As I wrap up, Tesh, I'm really happy you came today. I really hope this message and your journey inspires not just 1, 2, 3, but millions of people who watch this, whether it's today, whether it's in 5 years, whether it's in 10 years.
Thank you.
And the journey you have been on is a tough one, building marketForce to where it is today. And you inspire me, you inspire many people across the continent, you inspire many people across the world. And I wish you nothing but the best, man. All the best.
Asante, bro.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
Yamani, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to our Build Our Africa speaker series. We are back with an exclusive with Tesh today, and we really appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, things we can do better, please comment down below. I'm supposed to say like and subscribe or something. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow. I'm clearly not a YouTuber. Low budget YouTuber right here. Anyway, thank you all so much for tuning in. Seriously, let us know what we can do to make this better, and please go and follow Tesh and marketForce in the journey that they've been on. If you know people that want to join their agencies in these markets that they operate in, please send people their way. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Cheers.